Hello, friends. Today I will be reading Hansel and Gretel. Long ago, a poor woodcutter lived with his family on the outskirts of a large forest. He had two children named Hansel and Gretel. The children's loving mother had died, and the stepmother did not like children. When hard times came, and even the rich had very little, the woodcutter's family had nothing at all. At last, the woodcutter said, "How can we feed our poor children when there isn't even enough for ourselves?" His wife answered, "We must take the children into the woods and leave them there to take care of themselves. That way, maybe we all will have a chance. Otherwise, all four of us will starve." Hansel heard what his stepmother had said. When he told Gretel what their parents had planned, she began to cry. "But we are only children. How can we manage in the woods with no one to take care of us?" "Hush, Gretel," said Hansel. "We'll think of something." Hansel was older than his sister. He knew he would have to think of a way to take care of them both. That night, Hansel waited until his parents were asleep and the house was quiet. Then he tiptoed carefully out of the house and down to the grave road. He filled the pockets of trousers and coat with small white stones and crept back into the house and went to bed. The next morning, the parents woke the children early. "You have to come with us deep into the forest to gather wood," their father explained, looking sadly at the children. "We have no money to buy firewood in the village." The stepmother handed them each a small piece of bread to nibble on, and off they went. Hansel lagged behind the rest of the family, dropping stones on the ground from time to time. By the time the family was deep in the forest, the children and their parents had all collected as much wood as they could carry. The woodcutter told the children that he and their stepmother needed to chop the wood into small logs that would be easier to carry home. "But you children must be tired from our long walk," he said to them. I will build you a fire so that you can take a nap while we go out and cut the wood." He kissed both Hansel and Gretel and set to work building them a fire. Soon the children's faces glowed in the light of a warm fire. "Eat your bread and then lie down by the fire," said the stepmother. "We will be back soon after we have cut the wood." The children were so tired that they could not even finish their bread, but fell fast asleep right away in front of the cozy fire. When they awoke, they were alone in the dark woods. "How will we ever get out of this forest?" cried Gretel. But Hansel told her that when the moon came up, they would find their way home. Sure enough, when the bright moon rose, they could see the white stones that pointed towards home. The tired children reached their cottage at daybreak. Their father was very happy to see them. He had never wanted to leave them in the woods. He had also sold the firewood for a great price, so for a while there was enough to eat. The stepmother was not happy to see the children. "Why did you allow them to come home?" she angrily asked her husband. "We will run out of food. You will see." Sadly, the stepmother was right. Hard times soon came again. Early one morning, their parents led the children back into the woods. Hansel didn't have time to collect white stones to help them find their way home. All he had was a crust of stale bread. At first, Hansel worried that he and Gretel would be lost, but then he had an idea. "Don't worry, he later told Gretel after their parents had left them in the woods. I made a trail of breadcrumbs so we can find our way back home. Hansel and Gretel swept until the moon rose and then set out to find the trail. But alas, the hungry birds of the forest had eaten every crumb. The poor children were truly lost. Hansel and Gretel walked all night and all the next day. On the morning of the third day, they were almost too weak to walk another step. We will never find our way out of the woods, cried Gretel, and I'm too hungry to walk any further. Just when she was ready to give up, Gretel looked up and saw a beautiful white bird sitting on a branch above her. The bird sang to the children and then flew on ahead. The bird was so pretty that for a moment, Gretel forgot how hungry and tired she was. The children followed the white bird to a clearing in the woods where they saw a beautiful house made of gingerbread and candy. Its door was made of butterscotch and its shutters were made of icing. The hungry children broke off pieces of the house and began to eat. Their mouths were full of candy when they heard a sweet and gentle voice. Nibble, nibble, like a mouse. Who is nibbling on my house? The door opened, and an old woman hobbled out. She came along slowly because she couldn't see very well. At first, the children were very frightened of the strange old woman, but they quickly changed their minds when she reached out to them with her wrinkled hands and said kindly, You poor hungry children, you must be starving, but you do not have to eat pieces of my old house. Come inside, and I will give you much better food than this. The old woman gave Hansel and Gretel a very large meal of pancakes, apples, and milk. They had never before seen so much food on one table. Hansel and Gretel ate hungrily and happily. Then the kind old woman put them to sleep in soft beds with warm covers. As Hansel and Gretel slept soundly, their bellies full with all sorts of delicious sweets from the old woman's gingerbread house. The old woman prepared more food for them. All through the night she made apple dumplings, cakes, and pies for the two poor children. As she baked these treats, the old woman grinned and hummed to herself. When she peeked in the bedroom to check on the sleeping children, the old woman chuckled out loud. Hansel and Gretel stayed with the old woman for many days, all the while eating her delicious food. Hansel and Gretel never guessed that the woman who seemed so nice was truly very wicked. She had built her house out of cakes and candies just to attract children so she could eat them. Bum, bum, bum. Soon, Hansel and Gretel began to grow a little bit plump. The old woman noticed this and began to get hungry herself. Early one morning, before the sun had completely risen, she dragged Hansel out of his warm bed. She locked him inside a wooden cage. Then she woke Gretel. Fetch some water and dumplings for your brother, she told the girl. Fatten him up for me to eat. Gretel began to cry. The wicked old woman ignored Gretel's tears and made her cook and clean all day long. Every morning the old woman told Hansel to hold out his finger so she could feel how fat he was growing. But Hansel knew that the old woman could not see so well, so he held out an old bone for her to feel. This clever trick made her believe that Hansel was still too thin to eat. After 4 weeks, Hansel still didn't seem any fatter to the old woman, but she was very hungry by this time. She decided to eat him anyways, and Gretel as well. The old woman heated up her great big oven and then called Gretel into the kitchen. She told the girl to climb into the big oven to see if it was hot enough to Gretel knew exactly what the old woman was planning. She knew better than to get into the oven and told the old woman she didn't know how to open the heavy oven door. Foolish little girl, said the wicked old woman. She pulled her open the oven door. But I don't know how to climb inside, said Gretel, pretending to be confused. The old woman sighed impatiently. Foolish, foolish little girl, she grumbled. She leaned into the oven to show Gretel how to fit inside. Gretel was a smart little girl, and she knew just what to do. She gave the old woman a big shove that sent her tumbling all the way in. Then Gretel banged the door shut. She ran to free Hansel. Hansel, we're saved! The mean old woman is dead, cried Gretel. She unlocked Hansel's cage, and they hugged each other and danced around the room. Then the two children found the old woman's treasure of gold and jewels. When they left, they stuffed the gold in a sack and filled their pockets with jewels. After hours of walking, Hansel and Gretel came to a lake. Gretel called to a white swan, who agreed to take the children across. On the other side, Hansel and Gretel found the path for home. When they saw their own house and their father, they ran to him. The woodcutter laughed and cried with joy to see his children again. He had been very sad since his evil wife had made him leave them in the forest. The stepmother had died while the children were gone. Since her death, the woodcutter had been searching the woods for his children day and night. The woodcutter threw his arms around the children. Excitedly, he showed them the gold and jewels. Their worries were over, and the family lived happily ever after. Yes! The good ending! Woohoo! And that is the end of Hansel and Gretel. Please subscribe to my channel and please watch my other videos. See you soon, friends.